Yeah, this track was like the last track of a very long session. So basically, it's very drawn out. I don't know if I should like shorten it up or not. But on the other hand, I feel like, okay, just leaving it, as the original idea is and bringing out the original idea. But the track is 12 minutes long, which makes it unreleasable actually. Can't release it like that. You would have to cut it down below 10 minutes. So, yeah. It's very orchestral, for sure. Actually, no synth sounds or something like that, because I was almost asleep when I did it. Which sometimes is a good state to make art, strangely. Like, sometimes it makes sense, for some reason, to be very exhausted and work kind of like on your last energy. No, bro, it's not Bitwig. It's Cubase as always. I'm like a very staunch, user of Cubase since 2008. Since the very moment I was sitting in front of a workstation for music the first time, I was using Cubase. So that's Cubase. And thanks. Glad that you like it. It's something a little bit different for me because, yeah, recently I'm experimenting a lot with like cross germination of music. So having stuff inside my music which is not very typical for the genre that people subscribe me to. So yeah, this is like sort of, in a way it's experimental, in a way it's very not much not experimental. It's very tonal, very orchestral, and very much cross germinated with other styles of music. I mean, you have like vocals in there, you have a lot of orchestral influence, like classical influence, but also guitars and stuff like that. I am experimenting with that stuff, not exclusively. Like many times, want the full acid dose of crazy sounds and crazy design and crazy dark storytelling. Also, like like I'm musically extremely open. I became extremely open in what I'm interested in as a musician. Yeah. And now I am at a point where I can just like take whatever and put it together in a musical way as well, which is interesting. And it's like, it's its own thing. It's not that easy. Actually, in many ways, it's very easy. But I say that out of the position that I am like, learning about those things since a decade, more than a decade, 14 years now. So for me, it is kind of natural now how like things go together. Um, in any music, that's the same. That's the one thing that actually stays consistent in almost any music are those basic fundamentals, physical fundamentals. It's how frequencies interact with each other on a tonal level. You can, of course, as a psytrance producer, you can completely ignore that and, you know, just let things happen as they are. And it can be very good and very interesting. But this is also interesting in my opinion. So I am planning to put out an EP or an album like this because I have now collected already many tracks which go very much in this direction, like, vocals and classical instruments, and also like, yeah, several tracks with kind of guitar influence and just a little bit different. That doesn't mean that I don't want to do the other stuff anymore. It's not like, in my case, it's not like with Crazy Astronaut, that he actually really stopped with Furious and said like, okay, like no more further. Although now, he has gigs with Furious from time to time, but actually, like he switched over to Crazy Astronaut into that style. While I am still interested in both worlds, like completely experimental and completely musical. For me, it's both valid. I know it doesn't make it easier for organizers to book me, or in generally, like if you see yourself as a product, then it's not a good thing to be like creatively too open-minded, I guess. But I like it. And in the end, music is something very personal. It's utterly personal. About the bass line, it's never stock in that sense. Like among high-tech producers, there is one plugin from Steinberg which is 20 years old, and that is the VB1. But the VB1, it's all about processing. So like this is a very, very simple processing, just equalization, some EQ, very, very simple sidechain compression. It's, in this case, a very rudimentary processing. But in many cases, in my basslines, what you will find is a large quantity of processing going on. So it's all about the processing. But me, as many others, still love the VB1. I did bass lines in my life with an utter amount of different plugins and synthesizers, of course. But the VB1 is something that is still magical and just gives you, you know, a solid bass line. It has a very, very particular shape in terms of how it's tonally shaped. So, um, yeah, when you play it, what you will see is like the big sine wave, which is the ground frequency, you can say, of the tone. And then you have those very distinct notches at the overtones responsible for that tone that you are playing. And it's just a beautiful waveform. That's why everybody is using it. Like, yeah, an insane amount of producers are still favoring the VB1. Some of the best productions in psytrance history are based on the VB1. The VB1 is magic in a way. And there is 1 million ways how you can make a VB1 sound, make it sound different than its stock thingy. And then about the kick, because kick and bass is always very connected. I use Bassism and I love it. It's the same thing. Simple, very effective, and very much dependent on the proportionality of kick and bass and how they are mixed. This is super important, and this is really where it comes down to, and phasing. Those two things are really important. So then, next question that you had, how often do you take a break? That's a difficult question. So ideally, if I'm like in my normal mode, I would not take much breaks at all. Like, okay, definitely there is some breaks for sure for food in my case. And yeah, then it depends also, you know, how effective are you in sitting for long, long, long distances at a time as a producer. It's one of the most difficult things to keep your concentration up. No human almost can keep up top level concentration all day long. You need to have a break anyway. And yeah, nowadays there is a huge problem with all the distraction, you know, like YouTube, for example, is a big thing for me. Like fucking, I'm a fucking YouTube addict, unfortunately. But YouTube has those two sides of the coin as well. It's like very useful and very, very good, and very, very shit as well in stealing your time with nonsense and polluting your media, you know, diet with stupid shit that you don't really want to watch. And all those social media distractions, they are a big factor, and they are also for me, just like for everybody else. I try not to make breaks. In my mind, I would love if I would actually sit every day from morning till evening. And there was a time in my life where I was pulling that off quite nicely. But it's also dependent on a motivation. So, like, you know, in my early 20s, when I just started to become an international psytrance act, I was fucking ripping it in the studio. Like 2012, if you look back also to the productions of that time, they still hold up. And yeah, I learned a lot of things, but the raw energy that I put inside of that, in those times, sometimes I worked 12, 15 hours a day with only food break, basically, and then waking up and rinse and repeat. As a producer, actually, there is not much breaks. Like, as an artist, a true artist that is really doing that as his, you know, life work, those people, they never stop working, really. It's like every person that is doing his own shit in such a regard, doesn't matter what it is, also could be many things. You could be a movie maker, a writer, a musician, a painter. in those cases, all of those people, the people that are first of all in the upper echelon of any given field, they work 24/7 basically, really also, yeah. Like look at painters like Naoto Hattori, for example. This guy is like, it's a machine. And every other good artist, also from the visual field, uh, every successful artist or every serious artist, doesn't matter successful or not, because that's not a determinator of quality in art necessarily, but working machines. All artists are working machines. It's tough. It's tough. All artists, also is another claim that I would make, have a dissocial side to them. Doesn't mean that they are constantly dissocial. Most of us are very social, I guess, but like they have a side that they can dig into, which is asocial almost, because you're basically just sitting in the studio, sitting in the studio, sitting in the studio, sitting in the studio, sitting in the studio. Like every artist that you see on stage that you probably appreciate did that once in their life, at least once in their life. All in various ways, all in different ways with different patterns. But all of them are incredible when it comes to the determination of achieving something or creating something, fulfilling a vision. You need to have a lot of fucking meat on your ass to sit for sure, and to pull through. And it's not easy at all, because another thing that all artists go through is you are not, instantly provided with love and respect and appreciation. Nobody is. So there is this kind of corridor that you have to transcend as a creator, where you are, doesn't matter how good you are, you might not get the appreciation or attention yet that you maybe deserve on whatever. In the end, then like it depends. You have to go through that though, and all of creators have to go through that to say, okay, I'm not there yet, but I know that what I'm doing like ultimately makes sense, no matter what. No matter what. Doesn't matter. Like, let's say you're a creator and then you are ripping yourself a third one to create something and nobody gives a shit. So what? Like, document your work properly, publish your work in the most meaningful way that you can, and give it the best chance of survival that you can. And then you already gave back to humanity. Like, then it's upon humanity to discover the worth in that artifact that you created. And then maybe you might be dead at the point where true appreciation hits. But this is how far visionary artists go, for sure, in, putting yourself in the mind state to put in those hours to really waste your body even. Like, this is something what people don't understand as well. It's actually sitting so much. It's not healthy at all. Controlling mouse and other stuff in the studio as well. My hand, for example, is fucked. Like, I was going to the doctor, they thought I'm a professional martial artist or something when they were seeing the x-rays of my right hand. And it's coming because of, monotonous hand movements, of course, in the studio, for example. There was a point when they were like, how's it called? Basically, so that you can't move your arm when your arm is broken. At some point, the doctor put a thing like that on my arm to stop me from working. That is like not a lie. That's a true fucking story. The doctors had to inhibit me to stop me from working in the studio, to a degree that it fucks up my hand. And until now, my hand is fucked. And my back is fucked. But it's also on me, of course. I should have always used a vertical mouse and so forth. It's like that. everybody gets wasted for something, right? Like we all waste our lives for something. So then in the end, it's very important to make sure that it's something good, ideally, something that you believe in, something that is true to your heart, and that the most important thing actually is the thing that you are doing the greatest thing of value for humanity? It's an important question to ask yourself, you know? Are you just a cog in a system that is, pushing on a machinery, furthering a machinery that is ultimately unjust? Unjust, what means unjust? Moral is very interchangeable and exchangeable. There is this movie in German, it's called In China essen sie Hunde. In China they eat dogs, and it's exactly about that concept of exchangeability of morality. Moral is something that is very exchangeable. Just look 300 years back, or just look 6,000 kilometers to your left or to your right, and you will see that very different moral codes will apply. But what morally comes down to is also something individual. So like, what do you think is moral? Better make sure that what you do is something that you believe in is moral. At least I believe in that. Everybody needs to make this decision for himself. But like, that's how I believe, at least, is a good way to proceed in life. Yeah, bro. Yeah, I started the same. I even had a training plan. It's looking at me from my whiteboard. Yeah, it's so important. Fortunately, I have a good metabolism, so I can eat a lot of ice cream. I'm an ice cream lover, for example, but I'm not really getting like super fat or something. But it's not about that. It's about staying fit. And always for me, it's about the feeling of, ability, like just human ability. And I had some motorbike accidents in my life where I was like reminded on like, okay, dude, be very thankful for this vessel that was provided to you. Because this is like such a fucking killer thing, to have your body, to interact your hands with other people and also with yourself. There was this like realization of like, okay, folding your hands. I had a motorbike crash where my hand was like very much open. It was not a motorbike crash, it was a scooty crash in India. My first one, and a really bad one. I lost a lot of skin on the right side of my body, and I had like a really deep hole in my right hand, and my right hand was devastated, and I couldn't do this. And okay, I'm not a Asian person, which is like where this is something in the culture, but actually it is also in Western culture. It is also, and it's something extremely human to do this. Okay, I don't know how to explain, but it's like it's utterly human. It's something meaningful for humans because of some reason that I am not really able to explain. But I couldn't do that. And then I was like realizing, how much my hands are worth. It's a stupid kind of realization, but sometimes it is like that. The universe has to take something from you for you to generate or to appreciate this thing finally that you maybe didn't really consciously like did that. But exercise is really important. And for example, I had a friend here. I have a pull-up bar. So like I have weights, I have a pull-up bar, I have a gym ball, and what else do I have? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And you don't really need more. But I have a friend who can't even do one pull-up, which many people can't do a pull-up, but it's a very, very bad sign. If you can't do a single pull-up, then you should better start to do pull-ups, because then the way is of course to do half a pull-up, or to do a quarter of a pull-up and to bring yourself to the level. But yeah, human ability. You want to be, as a human, able to just really go out and explore. I want to climb that tree. I want to make a backflip into the water. Like, it's your vessel. How good is your vessel? Like, see it as your spaceship. How good is your spaceship? If it would be a video game, you know, would you want to have a kick-ass spaceship that is able to do insane things, or like a fucking lame fucking piece of metal garbage? Of course, we all want like at least a decent spaceship to trip around. So yeah, I have this hunching issue. I mean, like in the studio, it's fucking, and it's my own fault. The problem with hunching is like that, and it's basically you can have the best chair in the world, but it doesn't help if you're not sitting straight. For me, this is the biggest issue. If I would sit straight on this chair all the time and actually at the table, because I'm in many cases I'm sitting like that, and then I'm like hunching, which is a stupid fucking thing. Really stupid. And it's just about like consciously sitting, you know? Like, yeah, actually go to that table and then like rest your hands on the table properly, put everything in position, and then if I would produce that way, then I would have a lot less back issues. But what is interesting is as soon as I leave the studio, let's say I'm like a couple of months in a different country or something, my back pain stops because I'm not sitting in the studio. But it became a lot better anyway. Recently, since I have a new mattress, and that mattress is just like helping me a lot. Although it's still not ideal. It was sold as H3, which is meant to be quite hard. And I doubt that it's H3. It feels like H2. But yeah, it became a lot better. Mouse is important for your hands, and like something like a wrist rest and like a gel pad or something like that for your hands. That can help already in the studio. And overall workplace ergonomics, so that everything is actually in its place, because that has a huge effect as well. And then do those exercises. This is really what helps. Not only in terms of physical fitness, it's also mental fitness. Same thing, those things are very much connected. You will be much more alert and able to concentrate if you do exercising. For real, for real. You would think like, okay, if you're training, then you're losing energy. It's obviously the opposite from my experience. It's like, yeah, maybe you feel your muscles, but you have this way more active feeling. I don't know. Like it can be also like quite tough. You know, you're sitting in the studio. If you're tired, like not good. But then also the right lamps even help. So like I have one lamp, for example, which you can set so that it like basically automatically adapts to the time of day and provides the correct frequency to the body at any given time. So now, for example, we have midday in Germany. Yeah, okay, afternoon, early afternoon. So at that time, normally the sun would be standing almost in the middle of the sky, and you would have quite like a high frequency light, daylight, that will make you awake. So right now, all my room is actually illuminated with that, like, I think 5600K or something like that. But like daylight frequency, basically, to keep me awake, and it really helps. Like, makes you way more awake. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why everybody should actually exercise. It's so tough to stay disciplined though. In those things. Another thing that I really like, which I started in the Himalayas, is ice bathing, or like hot cold bathing basically. Like I take a damn hot bath, and then I take an ice cold shower after that, and that's a really good thing. Like it's very healthy for the body, and it makes you so fucking awake. Okay, guys, I have to make a smoothie. Was fun to chat with you. And maybe I go live later again for a bit, working on that track a little bit or on something else. I see you guys. Thanks for